So it looks like we may have some interesting things happening this week with some supposedly unknown actions by our political leaders or maybe those in power that could be happening later on this week that actually may be of benefit to us. So watch to the end of the video to find that out. Just a reminder that this is a mundane reading and not at all meant to be a all signs or sun sign kind of a forecast. Those forecasts are way too overly simplified. Now, let me just pull everything up on my end here and we'll get started. So we're going to obviously start the week off here on Sunday, April 12th. Now, at the very top of my list, we're going to have Mercury here in this semi-sextile to Chiron. Now, Mercury is now out of shadow. We've maybe had a bit of a realization now of the deception, how we've been deceived, etc. And I get a sense of more of this awakening with that, especially with Mercury still in Pisces. And with this semi-sextile to Chiron, it's like, okay, we're not going to let you hurt us in terms of our independence, individuality, sovereignty kind of thing like this any longer. Like, what I get this is as a sense of like a collective feel, like from humanity as a whole, the people themselves as a collective, in terms of this awareness. And this awareness by the people is more so now, or more so there than maybe what we see in media or what we see in other places that are still trying to manipulate like an old paradigm way, still trying to cause the deception. But most people have awakened enough because of things like the Epstein files was a big one, but there's other things that have happened during that Mercury retrograde time that were similar to that, but were also like basically showing people's true colors in a lot of ways, and like, okay, no, we're not going to deal with this anymore. And that's what this is highlighting, is this Mercury now out of shadow. Sorry, did I say direct? Well, Mercury is direct, but what I meant previously, if I didn't say it properly, was Mercury coming out of shadow. I keep getting them mixed up. Mercury coming out of post-shadow, and there's this awareness now of like, again, how we've been deceived, etc. Now, and again, with the semi-sextile to Chiron relating to, it's what I get a sense of is we're not going to let you hurt us in the same ways again anymore. Ultimately, healing aspects of this deception moving forward. Okay, so we're also going to have the sun here making minor aspects to the nodes. Although, if you know me, you know that minor aspects aren't so minor. Okay, so we're going to have the sesqui-square to the south node. I'm already feeling some with that, and the semi-square to the north node. I feel very strongly with the sun in Aries, there's an action-oriented thing that is like, no, we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to do the same way anymore. That needs to be let go of. That is gone. You manipulated us into believing these things were practical, and that these things were how they were supposed to be, how it should be in terms of what I get a sense of in terms of money and those kinds of things, etc. When you were just manipulating us, pulling the wool over our eyes, just get it so that you could have your own way and treat the rest of us like shit. And it's like, that's not happening anymore. The sesqui-square is like a square and a half. It's like a super square kind of energy. Remember, squares push for resolution to things. With this in more intense square energy, is like this can't be swept under the rug any longer. And I'm going to say that squares don't necessarily have to be a bad thing. They're pushing to take action towards something to fix it or whatever. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. So don't listen to the mainstream rhetoric that squares are bad or whatever like that, okay? And even with something like this, with this super square, it's like, we're not going to take this anymore. We need to let this go. It's really pushing to let go of that stuff, which ultimately is a good thing. Okay? And obviously with the semi-square to the north node here, we're heading in a new kind of unknown path. Okay? So we don't exactly know where we're headed because it's not what we're used to. It's not what we understand. We don't know what is going to happen, what's going to show up there, but we know it's got to be a hell of a lot better than what we've been through already. Okay, so, and that's the thing, it may be foggy. What I'm getting a sense of is seeing little bits of this positivity of movement forward in a new direction, and it's like following those breadcrumbs and just allowing that to trust in following that to a better path, to a better way movement forward with that North Node in Pisces. Now, we're also going to have this Mars in conjunction to Neptune, and I get a sense of this action-oriented step towards this new space. That North Node in Pisces is related to this conjunction as Mars rules Aries, Neptune rules Pisces, and we're maybe taking action into a lot of unknown things. And I think this is signifying certain things that I said in last week's video surrounding what I talked about with political leaders taking action, almost like for action's sake, to just push things forward in a lot of ways. And then I was kind of blocked in specifically what that was. And I feel like whatever this is still related to that kind of an energy, and maybe not fully knowing the direction in which we're going forward. In whatever action steps they're taking, it's almost like maybe we don't fully understand what that new direction is. But it's like, I almost get a sense of it's like we're on board with it, even if we don't get it. But there's some people that might still be like, what the hell are you doing? Kind of an energy. And of course, I'm still not getting specifically what that is. We just have to wait and see, because this physical reality, we've incarnated here in this physical reality to have this physical experience, which means that we need to experience things. So yeah, you can get a heads up like I'm providing you now, like I'm getting through now, but they're not going to give you always specifics on everything. Okay, and I'm also being drawn to say that not everyone that does intuitive readings is going to be right with everything, because you're only tuning in to the highest plausible outcome at that specific time. There's more other plausible outcomes that could occur. And there's also the aspect of people's free will at play. So yes, if you continue along the same path going forward, things are likely to play out in the way that they're going to play out. However, free will still exists and things could change, and one of those other plausible outcomes related to this similar energy could still occur in its place. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you listen to anybody's kind of a reading or anything like that. You're not always going to be 100% right, but those of us that do this with our best foot forward to have as much integrity as possible will do the best possible to not only let you know that, but just give you the best information we can surrounding what we're getting and what's coming through. And it's obviously up to you to do with that what you will. Okay, now that is Sunday the 12th. And I'm being reminded again to say that because this is a Sunday, this energy can bleed over into Monday as well, as aspects wax and wane. So yeah. All right, so let's move on to Monday the 13th, Garfield's favorite day. And let's go. So on this day, we're going to have Venus in sextile here to Jupiter. So Venus, okay. There's expansion here and growth on the home front as it relates to economics and somehow related to economic partnerships. Okay, what do we got here? I'm being drawn to, so you want me to talk? Okay, so this septile energy is surrounding, because I talked about partnerships, and then I'm like, okay, well, what is the partnership aspect? But there's this biseptile here to Juno, and of course to Pluto. Okay, so this is Jupiter representing like countries on a global scale, Cancer representing the home on the home front, Venus and Taurus representing material things, economics, etc. This septile representing this, with this connection to Juno. It's almost like, okay, it's like things have been orchestrated. The septile energy is oddly, things have been orchestrated almost like divinely or behind the scenes or something like that, in order to bring in new relationships and new kinds of things in a positive sense, to really push progress and transform and move forward in whatever way. And this is coming through as if it's just kind of happening, as if like it was divinely orchestrated or something like that, or pre-planned or whatever. And it's allowing whatever this economic growth and expansion is, because we're dealing with Jupiter and Venus And so Jupiter expands what it touches. There's economic growth and expansion on the home front in these countries, but it's related to like their own way, their own independent way, but also in relation to these other partnerships and new partnerships they have that support that kind of independence in that way, in whatever way, shape, or form that is. Okay. All right. We're also going to have Venus here in semi-square to Neptune as well. 2 degrees of Aries there. So Venus in semi-square to Neptune. I get with this Mars conjunct Neptune thing and like this, I'm getting almost like blocked. It's like I get a sense of there's stuff happening regarding this action that's being taken almost like in this new way that seems unknown or is a bit like unheard of or something like that. It's not bad. It actually seems positive, but it's just that we've never seen it or maybe experienced it before. And it's just, I don't know, like, because I'm not being shown all the details, it's just relating to what I said previously about it, and that's what's relating to also everything that I said with this Venus and sextile to Jupiter, with that biseptile to Juno and Pluto, etc. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so that's Monday. Now let's move on to Tuesday the 14th here. And this is when we're going to have Mercury moving into Aries. Of course, not until almost 9:30 p.m. Central, 9:23 p.m. to be exact. So we have most of the day with Mercury still in Pisces, and then into the evening towards the next day, they will go into Aries, of course. If you're watching this not from the Americas and any other part of the world, this is the next day for you. Okay, so Mercury heading into Aries. What do we got? This is action surrounding communication. So taking action to communicate and talk is what I get a sense. And what I get this is from a sense of political leadership. There's this aspect of like negotiation. There's taking action to have the talks, to converse, to talk about things, to come to an appropriate solution to things. There's taking action to really truly have these conversations now and actually face them, having the confidence, the courage, the strength to have these certain sometimes difficult conversations, but to be straightforward in what is going on and to actually face these things directly through that confrontation, through communication in whatever way. Okay, Mercury is also going to be in sextile to Uranus prior to coming into Aries, so still while Mercury is in Pisces. Okay, so and it feels like that's driving some aspect of, there's this aspect of change, and it almost feels like economically in whatever way that needs to occur, that drives this push while at that 29-degree point before it moves into Aries to actually have these conversations based on what is behind that, what we're seeing that is being revealed or made aware to us with this Mercury and Pisces kind of an energy with that sextile to Uranus regarding these changes that need to occur. And it seems like economically, money-wise, those kinds of a thing that really pushes that desire or that need to have these confrontational conversations, or these conversations where you have to face these things and have the courage and strength to face them in whatever way. It's kind of pushing for that change to occur, and then when Mercury comes into Aries, it's going to be like, okay, we're having these conversations now. Okay, so I'm also being drawn to say that this is likely to occur like within the next few days, because as this is happening now, as these transits peak, those conversations may not fully happen based on these experiences until likely later in the week. Okay? However, transits wax and wane, so the timing could be different to that as well. Just be mindful of that. All right, so that is Tuesday the 14th. Let's move on to Wednesday the 15th here. Of course, this is when we're going to have Mars in sextile to Juno. So Mars in sextile to Juno. we're taking action regarding these new commitments, partnerships, etc. in making progress forward. This is about really truly making progress. Remember, Aquarius is the sign of, it's a very progressive sign. It's progress, it's change, it's that like advancement technologically, all those kinds of things. It's a very progressive energy, even though it is a fixed sign. It's fixated on those things, so that's where it retains its focus. Okay, whereas Mars in Aries is this cardinal energy of taking action to move forward in a new direction. But this new direction is relating to that progress and change, etc., based on these new partnerships, commitments, contracts, etc., that we have made. And this feels a lot more positive, humanitarian, focused on different goals and aligning with the right people, disconnecting from the old people, aligning with the new people. And that's what I've said before, but now that that has happened previously, we're taking action on these new partnerships to move forward and make progress in new directions. All right, now we're also going to have Venus here in semi-square to Mars. Okay, this is related to the same thing, but now it's economically. So same thing, but we're highlighting this economic energy, and the people that are involved in pushing that forward economically, the people that are involved in these partnerships, relationships, etc., and pushing that forward economically. Venus is still in that biceptile there to Juno. So who's ever kind of been divinely guided or behind the scenes somehow slipped into these positions or helped to move forward with these new contracts and commitments, that's relating to these new action steps taking place, moving forward as well. Venus is also in this quintile to the North Node here in Pisces, so it's like there's action that's being taken behind the scenes in whatever way to really push forward in this new direction by these people or whoever is aligning these people or these partnerships or whatever into their appropriate place to be able to do these kinds of things. Okay, so that's kind of all with that on Wednesday. Let's move on to Thursday the 16th, where we're going to have the Sun in exact conjunction to Chiron. So Sun conjunction to Chiron, I feel like this is like we're not going to let these things happen again. What I mean by that is we're not going to let the wounds happen again. We're not going to let these wounds to sovereignty happen again. Wounds to our independence happen again. Wounds to like it feels like very independent, like an independent state or an independent country or independence in that kind of a thing. And part of the guidance is it's almost like it's related to stuff surrounding energy, the energy sector, okay, as it may relate to oil and gas or other kinds of things as well. There could be some kind of independence related to then healing that in some way as well surrounding this, as we have kind of been seeing how if you put all your eggs in one basket, if something happens in that area, it's not such a good thing, right? Although there's also the fact that, you know, there's other places in the world that do have that energy that can be provided to other areas too. And maybe that's part of, I have no idea if that's part, I'm getting an inkling that's maybe a part of new action steps or something, but we're not quite, it feels like that's only part of it, but there's more to it that's going on that creates a huge difference in a lot of things that I'm not being shown or told. And that relates back to that action step surrounding that Mars conjunct Neptune in the previous week's astrology. But again, and that could only be, they're giving me that as an example, but it's, I feel it's not just that, it's what it is, but it's also that there's other things like that or similar to that in relation to this energy that could be occurring in that as well. Okay, we're also going to have Mars here in sextile to Pluto. So there feels like very much this action being taken towards transformation, change, and progress and moving forward in much more humanitarian way, where it's much more towards, I almost want to say like global cooperation, as Aquarius would kind of represent the people or like the collective in a sense. And it's this humanitarian energy with that and cooperating together, taking action towards that, and it's also what I previously talked about, and not being wounded in whatever way and respecting each other's independence, sovereignty, etc. But taking action, it just feels very cooperative to support the independence of each nation in a lot of ways, is what I get with that. Okay, we're also going to have Mercury here now at 1 degree of Aries, and will be moving into conjunction with Neptune later into the evening. So with this Mercury in conjunction to Neptune, there's something here again that they're not telling me, that there's an unknown aspect of communication that is going to be coming out surrounding these action steps and things that will be occurring. Okay, they're not telling me because this is something that's planned based off of things that are going on in the world, and so it may not fully unfold as explicitly as I'm saying it or how I'm actually saying it, but there's something going on here that's part of a plan that is unfolding, but it's an appropriate plan for the betterment and sake of the world at large and humanity, despite what we may see is going on. Okay, and so there's something hidden here, but it's going to be coming out. It's not negative, it's very positive, but there's communication coming out surrounding this plan and these action steps and these, ultimately what it feels like is conversations that are needing to be had, maybe confrontational conversations, or facing certain things that need to be had, that is coming out in whatever way regarding whatever plan is being put in place to help to progress humanity forward in a new, more positive direction, whatever that is. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Friday the 17th here, and of course this is when we're going to have this new moon in Aries, still conjunct Chiron. Okay, so it's happening at 27 degrees of Aries. Okay, this new moon in Aries. What I get a sense of, this is new, so this is very new, a new direction, almost like globally, for like global leaders, taking action towards things. This is new action towards, the past 2 weeks at least have been like a buildup towards these new action steps to push forward, take action in a new direction, and this is highlighting that. Remember, this is highlighting the next lunar month's energy with this new moon, okay? Despite the fact that this is happening at the end of Aries and the sun's about to go into Taurus, which I get a sense of, is this going to feel like it relates economically now to whatever these new actions are, as we felt already, as I've stated, with Venus in Taurus. So, but this is highlighting these new action steps going forward. It's like the plan is in place now, or is being put in place, or whatever, and these new action steps are now here to push us forward in this new direction. And it's, what I get a sense of, it's away from this wounded energy, from this Chiron energy, this wounded energy of, what I get a sense of, being purposely manipulated to having to rely on other people instead of allowing your own independence in whatever way. It's healing that wound and saying, no, we need to respect each country's independence, sovereignty, etc., and come to deals, alliances, agreements that can help work with that, but still be able to help each other out at the same time, etc. Surrounding that, and this is really taking action to move forward on these things. Okay? All right, so there's also going to be Venus here. Let me go here. So Venus in semi-square to Saturn at 7 degrees of Aries. Now, this feels like structures, control structures. Okay, the Saturn energy is being used in a positive way to set appropriate boundaries to allow this independence to occur, to be able to act independently from this control structure level, right? And having those control structures work together to allow this to happen independently regarding the people involved, which would be Venus, and of course as that relates economically as well with Venus in Taurus, and also Venus herself as well. Okay, so that's what I get a sense of with that. It's really pushing for that kind of an ideal, which I feel like is beginning to occur here with this energy. Okay, so that is Friday the 17th. Let's move on to Saturday the 18th. And of course, this is when we're going to have the Sun, and I'm being drawn to say, still conjunct Chiron in sesqui-square to Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius. This is surrounding what I get a sense of, again, how other countries have been outcasted in whatever way in the world. And it is now healing those wounds and taking proper action steps to move forward in an appropriate way. Okay, I'm getting a sense of this Aries energy, especially when we relate it to its opposite sign of Libra, this aspect of balance, understanding the other, whatever. But Aries has an energy of that as well, that is this masculine energy that takes action to help, to support, to defend, to fight against those who are against one person's sovereignty, and to stand up for them and to help them in a way to, in terms of that understanding of the other as well, but in its kind of own independent way as it's with Aries, right? Remember, these signs are on the same axis, so they carry a certain vibe despite the fact that they're opposites. Okay, but there's a similar kind of energy that is existing with that. And that's what I'm being brought to talk about with this, is that supportive Aries energy in taking that loving, masculine, supportive action towards not allowing people to be outcasted or standing up for those who have been. And this is on like as specific countries around the world independently in how they relate to each other, and not allowing them to be hurt anymore, for wounds to be inflicted or whatever in that sense. So we're also going to have on this day, where are we here? Mercury in sextile to Juno. This is having conversations with these new commitments, partnerships, contracts, etc., in action steps to move forward to make progress that needs to be made. Okay, and I'm getting drawn to the fact that Juno here is basically almost dead conjunct with Pluto now. And it's making these positive transformations to make these progresses and change on a more global humanitarian kind of a level, and having the appropriate conversations with the people involved that have created these committed partnerships, and etc., to make progress and move forward and take the appropriate action steps. But it's through this conversation that then occurs. Okay, and next on the list as well is this Mercury in sextile to Pluto. I'm being drawn to the fact that it's the same thing, for these things to progress and transform in this way as it relates to these new partnerships, etc. there as well. All right, so we're also going to have, finally on my list for this week, is this Saturn making minor aspects to the nodes. So there's this quincunx to the south node and this semi-sextile to the north node. Now this quincunx to the south node is what I get a sense of is it's booting out these old people and these old ideas that are like frustrated with the aspect of moving forward in a new direction. And it's just like, no, your old ways of doing things did not allow the sovereignty and independence of others. I'm Saturn, I am in Aries. This is what I'm here to defend and protect against right now, is people's right to be themselves, independent, sovereignty, or whatever. All this is now existing on a global scale, so on a countrywide level, independence, however that relates in that sense. And if you're trying to manipulate this to your own gain and to not allow people for their own sovereignty, independence, or whatever on that countrywide level, or whatever, then you can fuck off, okay? That's the energy that is coming through with that. And that's those old practical ways of being that are being but it's almost like this is coming through. Saturn feels very powerful in this, and it's like, yeah, no, I don't care that these signs technically aren't compatible or that it's harder to deal with this energy. I don't give a shit. I'm setting the boundary, fuck off. That's what's happening, and those people that are still wanting the old way get excuse me, get frustrated by that, but it doesn't matter because they're being flushed down the toilet. So that's that. And of course, the semi-sextile to the north node is Saturn saying, no, we're moving in this new direction, whether you like it or not. Even if people don't fully know or understand it, I know that it's a positive new direction. I got the inside scoop here. I can see what it is. And y'all that don't fuck with that, you can just fuck right off. Okay? And that's that. All right, so let's bring it back to me here. That's it for the energy for this week. Of course, like I said, this is a global mundane reading. This is not at all meant to be any kind of a personal reading. For me, astrologically, if you want something that is personal, you need to get a personal reading that encompasses your entire chart. Anything relating to sun sign or big three, it's like you might as well just make something up and just tell it to somebody, because that's basically what that is if you're just going by those things. You need to see things as a whole, as you are a whole and complex individual person, okay? Now, if you have made it this far in the video, please leave a purple heart in the comments so that I know you're a real one. And again, if you do want a personal reading with me, those links are in the description below, or you can head on over to my website, mysticalmark.ca. There's also a section on my website where I take the transcript for the previous week's video and I, correlate it with the news stories from that week to show that I am not trying to bullshit you through what I am doing here, that I am doing my best to do this as legitimately as possible. Okay, that all being said, I don't think I have anything else to say. So I hope to see you all in next week's video. Take care.